Imagine spending 27 years in prison, watching the world move on without you. Your youth gone, your freedom taken, your family far away. Most people would come out angry, but one man walked out of prison with something different: forgiveness. And that decision would change the destiny of a nation. This is the story of the leadership of Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela was born in 1918 in a small village in rural South Africa. His early life was simple: rolling hills, traditional culture, and stories told by elders around evening fires. But even as a boy, Mandela was fascinated by leadership. He often listened as tribal leaders debated issues in open meetings. Everyone was allowed to speak, even the youngest voices. Those moments taught Mandela something powerful. A leader is not someone who speaks the most. A leader is someone who listens the most. But the country he was growing up in was deeply divided. The system of apartheid. By the time Mandela became a young man, South Africa had created one of the harshest systems of racial segregation in modern history: apartheid. Under apartheid laws, black South Africans could not vote. They could not live freely in many areas. They could not even move around the country without government permission. Mandela saw injustice everywhere, and he decided he would not stay silent. Mandela studied law and became one of the few black lawyers in South Africa at the time. Together with other activists, he joined the movement to resist apartheid. One of the organizations leading this struggle was the African National Congress. Mandela helped organize protests, campaigns, and acts of civil resistance. But the government responded with increasing force. Protests were violently suppressed. Activists were arrested. The situation grew more dangerous, and eventually, Mandela himself became a target. In 1962, Nelson Mandela was arrested. A few years later, he was sentenced to life imprisonment. The government believed that by locking him away, the movement would disappear. But something unexpected happened. Mandela's imprisonment turned him into a global symbol of resistance. Around the world, people began demanding his release. And while he sat in a prison cell on Robben Island, his influence only grew stronger. Prison life was harsh. Mandela spent long days breaking stones in a limestone quarry. Prison guards tried to break the spirits of the inmates, but Mandela chose a different path. Instead of bitterness, he practiced discipline. Instead of hatred, he practiced patience. He studied. He debated ideas with fellow prisoners. He mentored younger activists. In many ways, the prison became a classroom, and Mandela became its teacher. But the most surprising part of Mandela's leadership was yet to come. Because when the world finally forced the South African government to release him, many people expected revenge. They expected anger. After all, 27 years had been taken from him. But Mandela had spent those years thinking deeply about the future of his country, and he realized something critical. If South Africa chose revenge, the nation would fall into endless conflict. So Mandela made a decision that shocked the world. He chose reconciliation. When Nelson Mandela was released from prison in 1990, millions watched the moment live. He walked out with calm dignity, not as a broken prisoner, but as a leader ready to rebuild a nation. Just 4 years later, something historic happened. For the first time in South African history, citizens of all races were allowed to vote, and Nelson Mandela became the first black president of South Africa. As president, Mandela focused on healing the divisions of the past. He invited former enemies into government. He promoted national unity. And perhaps most famously, he supported South Africa's national rugby team during the 1995 World Cup. For many black South Africans, the team had once symbolized oppression. But Mandela understood something about leadership. Symbols can divide, or they can unite. When he appeared wearing the team's jersey, the nation saw something powerful. A leader choosing unity over revenge. Nelson Mandela's leadership was not defined by power. It was defined by character. He showed the world that the strongest leaders are not those who dominate others, but those who rise above hatred and choose forgiveness. Leadership is not tested during comfort. It is tested during hardship. And the leaders who choose wisdom, patience, and unity during their darkest moments are the ones who leave the greatest legacy. Nelson Mandela did not just free a nation, he taught the world that true leadership begins with mastering the heart.